Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am going to do It Was a 10, But tag. This tag was created by KD Books, and I was tagged by Noah, and everyone who reads it must converse. This tag has 6 prompts. Prompt number 1. This book is a 10, but are over 500 pages. And I'm going to do one better than 500 pages. I'm going to do 1,266 pages of this magnificently strange and esoteric and absolutely engaging novel. It is written by Alan Moore. He is more often known as an author of graphic novels. But this is a novel unlike any other. In it, you will experience a play, a poem, an invented language, and it totally engages the reader. For the most part, it involves it starts off with a boy who died briefly, and then is brought back to life through recitation. No big medical miracle. It happens a lot. But later in his life, he is critically injured again. And then he suddenly remembers an experience of his life after death. And in there, you will meet just the strangest vision of what the afterlife is like. And I cannot begin to describe just what an immense feat of learning this book is. You will be totally absorbed. It has such magnificent detail. There is a scene where the boy who is dead and who experienced in the afterlife is taken on a flight over this landscape by the devil, Asmodeus. And you will encounter everything strange and wonderful. You will need to invest some time in reading this, but well worth your effort. Prompt number 2. This book is a 10, but it's on pre-order. Now, how do I know a book on pre-order is going to be a 10? I'm just going to have to make a wild-ass guess. And I think my guess may be incorrect. Well, first of all, I only have one book on pre-order. So that by default is going to be my choice. And that is Cormac McCarthy box set of The Passenger and Stella Maris. Technically, that's 2 novels. Although I have to wonder whether the author wrote one big novel and decided to split it up into parts to get more money. We shall have to see. Now, I adore Cormac McCarthy's earlier works, like Blood Meridian, Child of God, to some extent, All the Pretty Horses and the Border Trilogy. His last 2 books, The Road and No Country for Old Men, made very popular movies, but I was not as impressed with those novels as I was with his earlier work. So we shall see whether Cormac McCarthy can pull out a 10 again, or is he going to be just mundane novels like his last 2. Prompt number 3. It is a 10, but it's a red flag. The Painted Bird by Jerzy Kosinski. Jerzy Kosinski was a Polish immigrant from World War II who started writing novels in English. Now, one of the problems with The Painted Bird is it describes a young Jewish boy fleeing from all types of human cruelty during World War II. There is incest, there is bestiality, there is rape, all the sorts of horrors one human can commit upon another human is in this book. That probably alone could earn it a red flag. But the red flag I also want to point out is that Jerzy Kosinski has been accused of plagiarizing. It is claimed that much of his work is derivative of Polish literature, unfamiliar to readers of English. So he's just basically telling Polish stories, putting them into English. Another problem is that when his books were first published, he really wasn't all that fluent in English. And some critics are wondering, how did his book get to be such a magnificent work of English literature? Obviously, some people think that he had a ghostwriter or that he stole it. I don't know. I cannot claim that anything was plagiarized from this book, but this book is an experience. You will feel the terrors of a young boy, a young Jewish boy during World War II. It is really an amazing experience. Prompt number 4. It is a 10, but it is over 100 years old. And I'm going to pick something much, much older than 100 years. I'm going to do the Tao Te Ching, which is from ancient China. It is 2,000 years old, maybe older. It is technically a book of religion, but it is not a religion like Western religion. It is not a monotheistic religion. It is more of an exploration of human life and meaning, and just contemplations of the universe. A brief quote. The way can be spoken of, but it will not be the constant way. The name can be named, but it will not be the constant name. The nameless was the beginning of myriad creatures, and the named was the mother of myriad creatures. Hence, consistently rid yourself of desires in order to observe its subtlety. But consistently allow yourself to have desires in order to observe what it is after. These two have the same origin, but differ in name. They are both called dark, darkness upon darkness, the gateway to all that is subtle. It can be religion, it can be philosophy, it can be just mental musings, but it is absolutely fantastic. There are a number of different translations. I have 2. It's coming from Chinese, so the translations are vastly different. Pick one up, start reading it, pick up a different translation, and just go for the translation that works best for you. Unless, of course, you're fluent in Chinese and then read it in Chinese. Prompt number 5. It was a 10, but it was studied in school. I'm going to pick Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I first read that when I was a sophomore at the University of Maryland for my overarching, what they call those catalog courses that just teach you about American literature, pre-1890, something like that. And The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was part of that curriculum. And it is just a good story. It is often categorized as a boy's book or a children's book, but it is so much more than that. It is an experience of young Huck Finn taking the slave Jim on a rafting trip down the Mississippi to free him from slavery. And yes, that is entirely contradictory to what someone should do, and it did bother Mark Twain a lot when he was writing the book, but it turned out great. Ernest Hemingway claims that Adventures of Huckleberry Finn is the greatest American novel ever written. Would I go that far? Probably not. But it is a book everyone should read. Does get banned a lot nowadays because the language that Mark Twain uses has a racial slur that is becoming very offensive in modern day usage, but is really rather common and not explicitly offensive at the time the book was written. And you have to read this book knowing that Mark Twain was in no way a modern racist. He probably had some attitudes which would be considered racist by today's standard, but by his standard of his days, he was a progressive and still a magnificent novel. Prompt number 6. It was a 10, but left you an emotional wreck. And I'm going to pick 2666 by Robert Bolaño. And this is a novel that's really a collection of 5 shorter novellas that tie in together. But one of the novels is about murders happening on a border city in Mexico. And what he does, he describes a murder in graphic detail. Then he goes on, he describes a second murder in graphic detail. And you don't see the murder. You're actually seeing the murder victims. So he's really just, the detail is how they were murdered. And it goes on, it goes on, it continues on. And you are just reading page upon page about these women who were horribly murdered. And you have to ask yourself why the author is doing that. And I have a theory. The women who are murdered are what you would say non-consequential women. They are prostitutes. They are drug users. So when they're murdered, the police kind of investigate, but don't really investigate. And what Bolaño is trying to say is that even these women who are non-consequential are consequential because there is no such thing as a non-consequential woman, even if she is a prostitute, even if she's a drug user. Her life matters. And the fact that they are being murdered brutally matters. And he just wants to hammer that home, saying, this is happening and people are ignoring it. Do not ignore these murders. And that is what's devastating because that's still happening today. I don't know if the murders are still going on, but people still dismiss the deaths of non-consequential people. And now I get to tag some people. I'm going to be involved in a reading event this month, reading Frankenstein for the I Read Dead People book club. And the 2 co-hosts I'm working with are very small channels. They both have, at this time, under 100 subscribers. So I would like to tag them so they can maybe get a few more subscribers. And they don't have to do this tag if they don't want to. It is just an invitation. And the channels are Heathers, Heroes, and Heroines, and Monty B. I'm also going to tag some of my old standards, Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics, and Elizabeth at Bookins and Books. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.